What is going on, guys? Welcome to another exciting edition of The Game Changer here, of course, on Spreaker.com. I am Nate the Effing Great, joined here by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Max Beatty. How you doing, good sir?
Doing just fine. It's a very nice, quiet night, nice and cool. And this week, I finally, just this afternoon, finished watching all of the Mae Young Classic, and I am in a great mood because of it.
Yeah, well, let's start by talking about that. For those of you that have been either living under a rock or don't know what we're referring to, this past Tuesday, the Mae Young Classic finally concluded, where we saw Shayna Baszler take on Kairi Sane, and the winner of your first annual Mae Young Classic is Japan's own Kairi Sane, ladies and gentlemen. This was kind of a little bit of an upset for me because a lot of people were heavily picking Shayna Baszler to be the heavy favorite going into this. But also, I just saw Kairi Sane and I thought, you know what? I like it. I like what she's doing. Totally fine with it. She makes it to the finals. Okay, we're getting there. Please let it be anybody else but Shayna. And then I see Kairi Sane win. It's like, thank you. Yes. Totally fine with that.
As soon as I had my heart broken and found out that Io Shirai wasn't going to be able to be in the tournament, rest easy, Io. Get better. Japan needs you. As soon as I knew she wasn't going to be in it, I'm just like, Kairi. If Kairi does not win this whole thing, what are we even doing? And then they gave me exactly what I wanted. And apparently, and the wording here is kind of vague, she's going to be getting a title shot opportunity. Now, does that mean Raw SmackDown Women's title? Does it mean NXT Women's title?
It feels like it doesn't even matter. But ease a lot of people's suspense and a little bit of spoilers. So for those of you that don't want to know, definitely fast forward about at least a couple minutes, because this will be something we'll definitely talk about. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Kairi Sane will actually be challenging for the NXT Women's Championship at the next NXT TakeOver special. Oh, you're going to love this. It's actually going to be a fatal four-way matchup, and already they've announced a couple of the participants. Kairi Sane, Ember Moon, and Peyton Royce, which means that there's one spot left. This, buddy. I will make a comment about this. I think that a lot of people did predict that Ember Moon was going to be in the title picture as soon as Asuka gave up the belt, and people are stating, oh, well, that's going to be the only way she wins the title is that, you know, Asuka leaves and she's going to be the next one to take over. Well, now with Kairi Sane in the fold, I don't really necessarily see that happen. And I'm actually going to make a bold prediction here that, well, actually maybe even just one of those opinions that probably not people I like. I honestly see Ember Moon as being ready for the main roster. I would put her on SmackDown, and I would really hype up having her be the next SmackDown Women's Champion down the road and set up a rematch between Asuka and Ember Moon at WrestleMania. That's just me. But I think that those two, having the matches that they've had at 2 NXT takeovers, are WrestleMania worthy. They're ready for that. And in all honesty, please just take my money if that happens.
Oh, God, I'm with you 110%, man. Every word I agree with. I mean, Ember Moon, I think she's main roster bound, not just because she's got the look, she's got the skill, she clearly clicks with the WWE style. She does not extra training time or anything like that. But on top of it, I actually think this was going to be a rare occasion of the NXT effect kind of flipping itself. Normally, you go from NXT to the main roster, all of your fans start weeping as well. I don't think I need to fully explain that one. But I honestly think that since Ember Moon kind of got derailed with that injury, she didn't have a ton of character development on NXT, so there's really not a lot to ruin. I kind of think, and again, I agree with you 110%, send her to SmackDown, have her be a contender for the SmackDown Women's title. I personally think that sending her to SmackDown would be a good way to kind of soft reboot her a little bit, kind of get some of the edge back. well, the only way Ember could win the women's title is if Asuka's not around. I think that's the way anybody could win the title, the way they were booking Asuka. It got to a point of you just didn't expect her to lose. I mean, it's not that Ember is bad, it's that Asuka's so fucking good. But, oh, God, no, I agree. I think also, yeah, Kairi Sane, I think Asuka kind of Asuka and Shinsuke kind of put the idea forward into NXT that Japan equals victory. So I think she's going to walk away. I think she's going to walk away from that with some gold over her shoulder. Ember Moon is going to get shuffled up to SmackDown, and hopefully we will get an SmackDown Women's Championship match. Ember Moon versus Naomi.
Ooh.
God, I want that. I either want that or Ember Moon versus Alexa Bliss. Give me one of those two.
I full-heartedly agree. I think those two would be excellent just to have on the main roster. So, yeah, we'll see how things turn about, and we'll see how, of course, the Fatal 4-Way finally turns out. We'll give you guys updates a little bit later on in the weeks to come. So, obviously, Max, I only have you for a certain period of time. Let's go into some of the highlights as far as Raw and SmackDown goes, and maybe a little bit about Lucha Underground, because there is quite a bit that actually happened. But, like I said, we're going to the main highlights. As far as Raw goes, I could think of two main things that I would like for us to talk about. The first being that Miz and Maurice are going to be expecting their very first child. They announced it this past week on Monday Night Raw, and I just want to say that this is actually one of those things that brought a legitimate shock on my face, because I thought to myself, okay, Miz has a bit of a bad history when it comes to kids. I mean, case in point, Miz Girl, back when he won the WWE title, there was that one kid that was in Tribute to the Troops where basically the Miz had to bribe and do like a special impromptu Miz TV segment just so the kid will say, oh, the Miz is my favorite superstar. And I believe it was, I'm trying to remember the kid's name. I think it was JJ, who was like the special interviewer for the WrestleMania 34 press conference, where he basically is just burning the Miz left and right, because Miz is just like, who's your second favorite WWE superstar? Who's your third? Who's your and then finally JJ just says, just to let you know, you're at the bottom of my list. I'm thinking, yeah, Miz is probably not going to want to have kids anytime soon. But then this announcement came along, and I'm like, I stand corrected. Wow. So congratulations to the Miz and Maurice on their expected child, and props to Enzo for making it a sick major burn. But I think that there's somebody who probably really wants to talk about that. Max, your thought on this past Monday with Miz and Maurice and Enzo?
Oh boy. First off, congratulations to Miz and Maurice. Wish you all the happiness. As with anyone who's expecting a child, hope the baby is happy and healthy. I'm one of those people that, when you're expecting, doesn't matter if it's a boy or girl, as long as, they come out, with everything in the right place and they're healthy. So, congratulations. Enzo, that was a good burn. You know what else would be a good burn? You in a car fire.
Saw that coming.
I swear to God, if he picks up the Cruiserweight Championship, I will put a match near him and all the hair gel will just cause a blazing inferno.
Oh, man.
Bada boom. Crispiest man in the room. How you doing? Burned.
Yeah, of course, the burn that Max is referring to was Enzo basically saying to The Miz, because they had impromptu match, where he just says, what you need to consider is not saying, how you doing? What you need to be saying to your kid is, who's your daddy? Literally got probably one of the best reactions from everybody, and it involved Miz and the Miztourage being down Enzo, almost to the point of a bloody pulp, but we won't talk about bloody pulp until we're talking about SmackDown, because God help me, that was intense. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the other thing when it comes to Monday Night Raw that I want to talk about is the fact that, for those that don't think that Braun Strowman is over, they need to really reevaluate his career, because he's overturned
Who Who's it saying he's not over? Dude is the most talked about thing about Raw every single freaking week. No, most wrestling fans talk more about him than they do any other promotion that isn't New Japan. Who's saying he's not over? Are they blind, deaf, and stupid?
That was kind of the point I was getting across. And like I said, overturned an ambulance, destroyed a ring with Big Show, and top that off, having 3 great main event matches with Big Show, 3 memorable ones.
Oh my God.
Also, decimating Roman Reigns twice in a regular match as well as an ambulance match. And this past Monday on Raw, oh boy howdy, this was another legitimate shock to me, because a guy his size taking a German suplex is one thing, but the fact that he takes a German suplex from Brock Lesnar, rolls over, and just stands up like it was nothing. The look on Brock Lesnar's face told the story. I mean, of course, Paul Heyman oversells it with his, of course, oh my God. Brock Lesnar's face, I've never seen that face that he's made this past Raw since probably him and The Undertaker, I want to say. But it was just a legitimate look of fear, and I'm like, oh shit, well, Suplex City is going to be burning to the ground at No Mercy.
Seriously, I mean, he no-sold Suplex City. No-sold Suplex City. Even The Undertaker, even Cena, they sold those suplexes like they got shot. But Braun? No, man, I took an ambulance crashing into me, and I just walked away with some blood on me. I'm good. That was just a suplex. I'm going to, rip you in half and drink your spinal fluid. It's just, I mean, holy crap. I mean, I got to agree with our man, Adam Blanca in this one. Braun versus Strowman is, the most sports entertainment match in fucking decades for WWE. But it's so good. The hype for this thing is unreal at this point. Oh my God. And I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. I am so ready for Universal Champion Braun Strowman. The monster among us needs to become the champion among us, now.
I agree. Just the way that he has been built this past year has been just absolutely amazing. He has been booked seemingly the right way, actually. It's one of the few times where we can actually admit that, because other people have been booked very horribly. But Braun Strowman is one of those prime examples of, what booking needs to be done. And basically, it doesn't matter if kayfabe or not. This is a guy who's just absolutely just strong in every single way. He is indeed the monster amongst men. And I agree, he definitely deserves the Universal title. And praying to God we see a title change at No Mercy, because that would be the one that I would be totally okay with, and I would just literally probably fall to the ground, passed out, thinking, oh my God, we're getting Braun Strowman as Universal Champion. I am happy right now. We got a full-timer finally. He's the champion. And I would love to see him do a mock version of the U.S. Open, just a Universal title open, and he just destroys everybody.
Oh my God, yes. That would be so perfect. So you can do a U.S. Open. I can do a Universal Open. Big Show comes out. I've done this 3 times, old man. I'll do it a 4th. And I'm sorry, when Strowman and Show put on 3 just absolute clinics and they're actually spaced out so you can appreciate each one, yeah, I want that 4th one. If it was for the title, oh my God, I think you're like, oh, they're going to do Big Show versus Braun Strowman again. Those have always been really good. It's for the Universal title. Here's my entire life savings WWE. Just go right to And who would have thought we'd ever say that about a Big Show match in 2017? Big Show's been on fire the past few months, but Strowman brought something out of him, man.
Yeah, I full-heartedly agree. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to be able to see that as much, just because of the fact that Big Show did suffer an injury during the cage match, and he unfortunately will have to go in for hip surgery. So Big Show best of luck to you on your surgery, and please get well soon. Yeah. We want to see more Braun Strowman Big Show matches. All right, so we move on to SmackDown Live. Main thing talking about is the fact that this was Sin City SmackDown, but also the fact that this was the Kevin Owens show. I don't care what anybody says. Kevin Owens basically dominated this entire show, whether it was with his segments or backstage or in the ring. It was just absolutely amazing. And then the final climax was indeed him meeting up with Mr. McMahon. Your thoughts, Max?
First off, while Kevin Owens' booking has not been anywhere near as good or consistently good as Braun Strowman's has been this past year, he still managed to be one of the best characters in all of WWE, Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT. He's just one of their most well-developed and fully realized characters. So sending him against Vince McMahon and having him be so much of a self-absorbed scumbag that you feel just a tiny speck of pity for Vince, all the while KO is making some perfectly valid points, is just beautiful. And then the headbutt heard around the world, crack, busts open Vince McMahon. And I'd like to point out that this is not the first time that this has happened on a Sin City SmackDown. Years ago, they had a SmackDown in Sin City. Vince gets hit in the head with a chair and bleeds in the exact same spot in the same way. And it was even from a character who at the time was very much kind of the way Kevin Owens is, except more, it was more dialed up to the extreme. This is like going back to like late Attitude Era, early Ruthless Aggression. But it's just, Vince, man, in your 70s, just stay away from Vegas, dude. Your head, your health, your blood, come on, man. Think of your grandkids. But no, oh God, it was terrible. I mean, maybe it's sick and wrong to say I got that much joy from watching a 70-plus-year-old man bleed all over the floor, but holy fuck, that was great.
It really was a good moment. But before that even happened, of course, Vince McMahon addressed the whole Shane McMahon suspension deal, really stating that the reason why he suspended him was because he didn't get the job done. But that he will get the job done against Kevin Owens in a matchup that will take place inside Hell in the Cell. Boy, howdy. See, last time we saw Shane McMahon inside Hell in the Cell, he was, that's right, he almost killed himself against The Undertaker. Now, we're erasing the fact that, this matchup was pointless. The match itself was still one of those things where it's like, Shane McMahon can go. Shane McMahon can still kill his body. Shane McMahon is still going to make his kids cry more than likely 2 times a year. So, more than likely, this is going to happen at the Hell in the Cell event coming up in about a month. Jeez Louise. How could they possibly top Undertaker versus Shane McMahon? I mean, I know people say, it's not that hard to do. Undertaker was old, so he couldn't really do too much. But yeah, still, that spot is going to be very hard to top. How the hell?
I don't know if they can top necessarily that one spot, but I think that, they can easily top that match because, that spot, yeah, that was really cool, but the match overall was kind of like, damn, Shane, learn to throw punches again, dude. Like, it's a worked punch. You have to make it look like you made contact, not contact with the air in front of them. But he's got KO with him in the ring, so that should definitely help. So I do think it can definitely be a better match. I don't really know if this whole storyline has built up enough to be doing this as a Hell in a Cell match. It still kind of gives off that feel of, it's October, time to do a cell match. But, you know what? After Sin City SmackDown, and since we got KO working with him in the ring, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm looking forward to this. Plus, we've got a month to build this sucker up, so.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be too hard. All right, so we go from that to a little bit of the Lucha Underground before saying goodnight to Max. We're 2 weeks away, actually about a week and a half away, from Ultima Lucha 3. and it looks like it's going to be absolutely amazing. But we still got one more episode of Lucha Underground, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. People are going to be seeing, what the build-up to the Gift of the Gods matches. We get to see a very interesting mixed tag match, or in Lucha Underground, we're just calling it a regular tag team match because, let's face it, Lucha Underground knows how to do business. Marty the Moth and Mariposa taking on the team of Phoenix and Melissa Santos. For those of you that are not familiar, Melissa Santos is the ring announcer for Lucha Underground, and she's stepping in the ring for the first time ever. Dear Lord Almighty. This is going to be interesting.
I mean, if this were any other promotion, I would look at the ring announcer getting involved in a match and just go, nope. I don't. It's going to be bad. Not even like, oh, she's going to get destroyed. I mean, this is just going to be like, she's not trained and it's awkward bad. But Lucha Underground, whether it's through careful editing or just having the right people around to work with them, they know how to spin gold out of pure nothingness. So I'm intrigued. There's just a little part of my brain that's still going to be like, that's going to be like if JoJo wrestled, but then the rest of me's like, yeah, but Lucha Underground. I'm again, benefit of the doubt. It's Lucha Underground. It's probably still going to be good.
I think the reason why I'm looking forward to this mixed tag match is because of the story that they've just been playing off on that. I mean, they're obviously building up the match between Marty the Moth and Phoenix, where it's mask versus hair, as well as the storyline that they've been doing with Marty and Melissa Santos, where Marty is just completely obsessed with her, and just Melissa's at the point where, far be it from me to say this, but in previous weeks she's been just basically saying, go away, Marty, and not really doing anything. The slap city that she took to Marty the Moth this past week, dear Lord, I was surprised that Marty's cheek did not just slide off of his face. Those were just brutal slaps to the face.
Seriously, I mean, you didn't get the taste out of his mouth as much as she slapped the teeth out of it.
Good point. Yeah, it was... Like I said, it was still pretty brutal. The other thing would be the match between Rey Mysterio and Matanza, which was, good Lord. I mean, the match itself was good. Post-match, basically one of the few times where we thought to ourselves, well, Rey Mysterio is dead. Bottom line, really.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it makes sense. Matanza's literally a god, but you can't kill Ray. But yeah, Ray, homie, you dead.
you did, bro. You were just completely dead. Matanza just absolutely decimated him.
Mauled him.
We saw, his Wrath of the Gods finisher to a chair. We saw him just take Mysterio's head, put it into a chair, and then do that thing where they throw them into the ring post, which does a lot of neck damage for, Wrestling 101. And then just carried out Rey Mysterio like he was just a giant carcass. Like King Cuerno would get his latest hunt. Just carry him off like nothing. And it's like, God help me, I think they are just killing Rey Mysterio. Please. No, we've seen so many people get died off. I mean... Just not Mysterio. Not my Ray. Come on, man.
Hide your luchadors. Matanza's killing everybody.
Alright, so going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the finer details on Raw and SmackDown, as well as Lucha Underground, and some GFW news, and even some AAA news. But before we do that, going to say goodnight to Max. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking some time out and just having fun here, talking about a little bit about Raw and SmackDown, and I'll see you next week for our prediction episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
for me, man.
So next week is our...
Always a pleasure coming on board and getting to talk wrestling with one of my best friends, and to all of our lovely listeners out there, thanks you for joining us.
Thank you so much, you guys. So I will be back in just a bit, talking a little bit about some of the other things that happened this week, but we will talk to you in a bit, so enjoy the song.
There's not a moment to spare. It's quite a drop from the top. So how you feeling down there? It's a cold, cruel, harsh reality. Caught, stuck here with your enemies. Who do you think you are? Tearing us all apart. Where did you think you could go? 'Cause everyone already knows it's 20 to 1. Yeah, so you better run. You got the world on its knees. You're taking all that you please. You want more, but you get nothing from me. You like the burden we bear. You love the hate that we share. You want more, but you get nothing from me. But enemies, enemies.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Game Changer. I am indeed Nate the effing Great, going solo now. So, talking a little bit about everything else that happened with Raw, SmackDown, Lucha Underground, as well as some GFW news and some AAA news. So, Monday Night Raw, already talked about the whole Braun Strowman deal, talked about Miz and Maurice expecting a child. So, what else was there? Okay, so Roman Reigns and Jason Jordan had a really good matchup between the two of them, and this is really one of those things that was a positive note for Raw, because we got to see Jason Jordan in a physical presence and just really having a good matchup. This was the Jason Jordan that I think a lot of people really wanted to see coming into Raw and doing this angle with Kurt Angle, ironically. And Roman Reigns picked up the victory after hitting 3 huge moves: the drive-by kick, Superman punch, and then the spear for the 1, 2, 3. Jason Jordan on a bit of a losing streak right now. My thoughts and my fantasy booking of how I would do this, I would have Jason Jordan and Kurt Angle kind of talk about, the fact that he's kind of failed at 2 matches, 2 main event level guys, and, maybe expecting more from Jason Jordan, especially, and just putting like that pressure on that some fathers would do to their sons, where they just expect more and they want them to do more and they want them to really shine out and be like, that kid that just always is better than everybody else. So it would cause a little bit of resentment and maybe slowly start turning Jason Jordan heel. It would be really good just to see that. Maybe Jason Jordan does some more underhanded tactics, start, maybe doing the grabbing the tights and using the ropes, just doing stuff like that, really. I would love to see that. But then from the Roman Reigns matchup with Jason Jordan, which was a positive note, we go into the negative notes. Another John Cena versus Roman Reigns promo. Shoot promo, whatever you want to call it. Basically, just trashing each other back and forth. Basically, John Cena saying, "Oh, you have your head so far up your ass. It's like the human centipede," in which I blocked John Cena. I needed to forget the fact that was even a movie, and John Cena reminded me of that. So now finally it's like, yep, nope, Cena, you are blocked. You are blocked. And I know it's not really that big of a deal, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, I'm done. Done with you, Cena. You've hit the final nail in the coffin. So then Roman Reigns talks about John Cena not going to be a big star in Hollywood, which he's technically not wrong, because here's the thing. John Cena has done very few main lead movies where, he's the star. He's really shined as a supporting character. So, I mean, you look at the prime examples of, Marine, 12 Rounds. Legendary might be the one exception where it's like, okay, that was like a perfect role for him. But yeah, I mean, he's really shined more as a supporting role. And I think that's why some people kind of watch them. They're not really there to say like, oh man, it's a John Cena movie, let's go watch this. No, Trainwreck, he was just there as like just an extra guy who has, sex with Amy Schumer. The movie Sisters, I think he was a was he like a bouncer or like a gang member or something like that. Fred, he was Fred's father. And now he's going to be in the Bumblebee movie, which I guess he might be the main lead male character, but not many people are going to say, oh, well, we're going to go see Bumblebee because John Cena's in it. Very minuscule people are going to say that. But anyway, I'm getting too off topic. John Cena ended it by saying that, this match between Roman Reigns and him is going to be like a cakewalk, and that he's going to be like a drug test for Roman Reigns. Just can't pass him. Good burn, Cena. That was a good burn. But the issue here is that these quote-unquote shoot promos are not doing Roman Reigns any favors. If anything, I don't know who's doing the writing for this, but it just feels like they are just hurting Roman more than anything. They're not doing him any favors. He's really looking like just a complete... He looks like a complete bozo. He really does. He doesn't look that good at all. It just feels like these promos are being written for him so that he looks really weak, and then maybe at No Mercy he picks up the victory. It just looks very bad. It doesn't work for him. If you would let him be a little more genuine, then maybe things would turn out well, but no, it's like, oh no, well, we gotta have him do these shoot promos where he talks about how John Cena is not really that big of a star, and how John Cena, buries people and blah, 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 blah. I think we're now reaching the point where it's like, yes, we know that. We'll still cheer for that because somebody said it, but you still got to make it genuine. You still got to make it original. Don't just pick something that happened, that somebody else has probably said. Do something different. Do something unique with it. That's the only way that you're going to get Roman Reigns over, is to have him be original and have him be genuine with all of these different promos. So hopefully that changes within the week to come, because we are just one more week away from No Mercy, and John Cena versus Roman Reigns is one of the least anticipated matches on my list right now. The main event was an 8-man tag team match in which we saw the Hardys, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins defeating Sheamus, Cesaro, and the Club. The bigger news about this is that Matt Hardy posted a video a little while back in which he was basically doing the Matt Hardy broken gimmick, but instead of doing broken, he was awoken, which is an interesting spin, and some people might not like it, but I'm actually a bit of a fan of it, because this is going to involve another fantasy booking. What I would love to see is that they do a fatal 4-way elimination match for the tag team titles at No Mercy. Have Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose taking on Sheamus and Cesaro, taking on the Club, and taking on the Hardys. The final two teams, you guessed it, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, and the Hardy Boys. Rollins and Ambrose pick up the victory, and we see, the kind of mutual respect between the two of them. But then we see the Hardys turn on Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, where they just do dual twist of face, maybe a swanton, leg drops, stuff like that. The following night, basically having them go into like a tweener route, not necessarily have them go full blown heel, because unfortunately we have enough heel teams on Raw as is. So having them kind of like in between, really, just where they talk about how they were basically in almost like sleep mode, where they were just basically doing what they thought was the right thing to do. Just having them go out there, be happy, and just having great matches. But when they realize at the end of the day is that having those kind of matches are not that important. What is important is that you win, especially winning tag team titles. And then you kind of get the title picture between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins and the Hardys to be a little bit more interesting. And I know that seems mean because of the fact that they're writing off basically Sheamus and Cesaro, who were honestly one of the best teams ever on Raw. But just to kind of really incorporate the whole broken gimmick, maybe this could evolve into a deal where Matt Hardy breaks off with Jeff and does his own thing, and maybe that's where Jeff Hardy then goes to challenge Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. You never know. I just think that would be really good build up, because right now they're starting to make the transition into the quote-unquote broken gimmick. So we'll have to wait and see the forthcoming months and see where they go with it. Maybe they're going to go into this awoken gimmick, which I think they could do many wonders for, but I also think that they could do that sooner rather than later. Alright, so from there, talking about SmackDown Live, they had 3 title matches in which they really made Sin City SmackDown into a big-time pay-per-view feel. So let me kind of break it down like this. So the United States Championship matchup between Ty Dillinger and AJ Styles, it was longer, it was good, but it's just, I just don't feel like it did Ty Dillinger any favors. If they would have just prolonged the matchup, if they would have just prolonged the matchup and made it a bit more, technically sound, make it almost like, like Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode at NXT TakeOver Toronto, just making it more, maybe a little bit more better, just where they really made the matches just a bit longer, but also kind of more helping to the superstars, then that would have worked. But unfortunately, that's not what happened, because Baron Corbin got involved, and AJ Styles picked up the victory after the Calf Crusher. Baron Corbin assaulted Ty Dillinger and AJ Styles after the match, and announced that he's going to be the next challenger for the U.S. title on SmackDown next week. Okay. New Day versus the Usos in a Sin City street fight was absolutely match of the night, if not one of the matches of the week. Yeah, I'm going to go as far as say that was match of the week, because these guys just tore the house down. We saw tables, we saw chairs, we saw kendo sticks, we saw just about everything thrown in except the kitchen sink. These guys just laid it all on the line. Jeez Louise, I mean, Big E probably took the most damage out of everybody in this matchup. Eating kendo sticks, eating super kicks. Kofi Kingston would get some redemption on Super King, doing kendo sticks to everybody. And it looked like the Usos were going to pick up the victory with a dual splash, but Kofi Kingston throws Jey Uso off of the turnbuckle through a table. Jimmy gets hit with the Midnight Hour, and we got new tag team champions in the New Day. 4-time tag team champions in the New Day. And honestly, a lot of people are complaining that, oh gosh, they're doing this whole hot potato thing with New Day and the Usos. But in all honesty, I'm okay with it, because the story is good. The matches that they're having are fantastic. Now, if they kept doing this throughout the end of the year, then yes, I can understand where that's going to be a problem. But right now, this is only the 3rd title change between them, and they're really just showing the prestige of the tag team titles. I think that compared to the women's championship, let's do a quick comparison about that. So obviously with the women's title, they did something very, I don't know if I would say very interesting, but they basically had it where Sasha Banks won the title on Monday Night Raw, and then they had Charlotte win it back on the events. What would have probably helped is if they would have had Sasha Banks maybe retain the title on a Raw every now and then. But also, there were just a couple of the matches that we had a little bit of issues with. I think with the Hell in the Cell matchup, the spot where the table didn't break, unfortunately, really kind of watered down the matchup, which does kind of suck. But what are you going to do, really? There's not much you can really do. So, comparing that to the Usos, it actually does feel like with the Usos and the New Day, they're building something on it. They're just basically trying to prove who's the best tag team, who is the greatest. The Usos have their own mentality where they're the best since day one, and the New Day has a claim that they are the best because of the fact that they are the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE, and that they just are amazing because they got market sales, they're great with the kids, and yada yada yada, just building up like that. So I think the difference between the New Day Uso and the Charlotte Sasha deal is the fact that they are playing hot potato, but at the same time, it feels like the matches themselves, when it comes to New Day, the Usos, are just always better. They got people getting up out of their feet. The near falls are just getting better and better. They're more consistent. It just really feels like it's an actual feud, not like one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we're basically going to build up, Charlotte to being a 16-time women's champion, which, guarantee you, before her career is over, that's going to happen. So, before we get too further into, well, actually, I'll finish up the SmackDown deal, and then I'll talk about something that actually came up this past week. So, obviously, we had the women's title matchup between Naomi and Natalya, and Carmella was at ringside with Ellsworth, and dear God, I saw Ellsworth linked like a dog with a leash. Dear Lord Almighty, this was just absolutely, it was just an atrocity. I literally said, oh God, here we go. Carmella's gone 50 Shades of Grey. And, yeah, basically they ran into a little bit of interference where Naomi does like a dive to Carmella and Ellsworth. Natalya picks up the victory with a sharpshooter. This matchup itself was a lot shorter than their matchup at SummerSlam, and it felt very underwhelming. I thought that they would actually do a little bit more, and they didn't. I know that they're putting Asuka on Raw because there's a little bit more depth and there's a little bit more, I guess, competition for the women's division there, but that just means that they really need to find a way to really make up for that depth for the women's division on SmackDown Live. You got to have some really incredible matches, and for the most part, they did. They had some great matches between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. Alexa Bliss and Naomi had some good matches, and for Naomi, she just for Naomi, you would expect more, but they've really done absolutely nothing with her. She's definitely going to be one of those people that definitely brings in a lot of money, especially with her glow gimmick. It's definitely over with the people, and her wrestling skills are just getting so much better, but they're really doing nothing with her. That's the problem. If I was them, I would have loved to have seen, Naomi versus Becky Lynch in a women's title feud. Why they haven't done that with Charlotte is beyond me, but maybe they're building up to a bigger storyline. I know also Charlotte's dealing with a couple of issues that is going on with her dad, so that's probably one of the other issues that are going on, but they really should be doing a lot more with Naomi. It's really sad to see that. So, okay. The thought that I was going to bring up was, it was involving Sasha Banks. So with Sasha, there was an interview that was released earlier this week, if not this past weekend, where she talks about, fans wanting to, get autographs and get pictures and stuff like that outside of, autograph events and outside of, outside of, like regularly scheduled appearances. And basically, she used, I don't know if it was her or Sam Roberts that used the phrase like stalker, but basically it was one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we do the events, we do the shows for those kind of reasons. Any other time, I'm not going to do that. And she received a lot of backlash from a lot of superstars, including Bully Ray. Shane Douglas did like a 3-minute deal where he talked about how the fans are there for us and that we need to show appreciation to them. And that if you're not really comfortable with the situation of them, coming to an airport, asking for autographs, asking for pictures, or, everything like that, then you probably shouldn't be in this business. So Don Tony from the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show, he did an episode on Breakfast with Velocity where he actually addressed this. And I agree with what he said to the point that, obviously it is kind of stalkerish if you're basically calling the airport and saying, well, when is Sasha Banks, leaving? When is she coming in? That is a little bit creepy. But, of course, when a lot of us think of stalker, we think of, random phone calls without, saying anything, just to hear the voice of that person. Or even just, standing outside the door, standing outside the window, just stuff like that, following them everywhere, knowing, like, their every move. That, to me, is kind of, like, stalkerish. So, for them to have, like, like a chance meeting where there's, like, these parents and their little girl or boy, they're big fans of Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks, hey, she's conveniently in the airport. Let's go ask her and see if maybe she'll take a picture for, our son or for our daughter. And she says no. That's not right. It really isn't, because there's so many people that really do appreciate what the WWE does, and I agree full-heartedly with a lot of what the superstars have to say. If you really have no appreciation for the fans, even when they, come up to you during, like, say, I mean, the fans will be respectful when it comes to the private matters. When it comes to, like, hey, they're going to have a private, like Maurice and Miz, they'll have, like, a private dinner. They'll be respectful of that. If they're trying to have, like, a private moment, they'll be respectful of that. Do you really honestly believe that our fans are so jaded and saying, every time they see Sasha Banks, or every single time they see a Bo Dallas or the Miz or Maurice, that every single time they see him, they'll be like, oh man, we got to always bug him for an autograph or for a picture and blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, they'll understand, if they say, hey, not right now, they're going to be respectful of his, be like, okay. So, but at the same time, Miz mentions that he's very flattered every single time that a fan comes up to him and says, hey, can I get an autograph? Can I get a picture? He's always flattered by that, because he knows that the fans are appreciating him and all the hard work that he's put into this business. For Sasha Banks, I understand that she wants to keep, some things private, but I think she still needs to show appreciation to the fans no matter what. Well, I shouldn't really say no matter what. I should say, to a point. I get it. There's a time where, there's people that stalk them at the hotel or at an airport or stuff like that. That I can understand. But if it's like a chance meeting, then just do it. Don't be that person that's just going to sound more stuck up and snobby more than anything, because it's not going to do you any favors. That is just my opinion about that. All right, so very interesting thing to kind of end the SmackDown Live deal was Chad Gable, I should say, and Shelton Benjamin had a match against the Hype Bros in which they were victorious. Mojo Rawley shook hands with Chad Gable and Benjamin. Benjamin and Gable stuck their hands out to Ryder. Ryder just walked away. So we may be getting a Zack Ryder heel turn in the upcoming future. Now, I think that there's a lot more investment with Zack Ryder as a face than with Mojo Rawley as a face. I just don't see Mojo as that big of a draw. Zack Ryder is definitely a draw as a babyface. He really is. And when he has those moments like at WrestleMania where he wins the Intercontinental title, people are definitely thinking, yes, we hung out for this long. He's finally the Intercontinental Champion. He's having this big moment. People are always going to remember that. I really do feel like Zack Ryder as a babyface is more of a draw than Zack Ryder as a heel. Is it a good change-up? Sure. But I just think that it would be an interesting turn having Mojo Rawley play the heel. Saying, hey, you've been riding my coattails for so long, and that, I've accomplished so much more without you. It just seems to make more sense. And my thoughts on the cringeworthy interview or promo where we saw Jinder Mahal talk about Nakamura, we get it. In all honesty, he's basically saying, Nakamura is poop, because he made a lot of like diarrhea jokes and he made a lot of poopy jokes, and it was too much. I literally just I almost felt like shutting my TV off after watching that. It was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to watch this. It was very cringeworthy. All right, so Lucha Underground. We talked a little bit about, Matanza and Rey Mysterio. So the other thing that happened was Pentagon Dark defeated El Dragon Azteca for an Aztec medallion. So he is the final participant in the Aztec Warfare. Not Aztec Warfare. Oh, jeez. The Gift of the Gods matchup that will be coming up in the forthcoming weeks. The other matchup that happened on here was an Atomicos match, which featured Johnny Mundo leading his team of Taya, PJ Black, and what was going to be Miguel Mundo, but Johnny Mundo basically said, you didn't have my permission to change your last name. You need to sit out. He replaced Miguel with Marty the Moth, and it was very convenient that they did this because then we saw them taking on the team of Prince Puma, Sexy Star, Phoenix, and Cage. Cage left like halfway through the matchup because Jeremiah Crane took Cage's gauntlet and just ran away with it, and Cage went after him. Prince Puma took like a multiple tag team maneuvers before getting hit with the end of the world for the 1, 2, 3. This was still a really good matchup, and it's really promoting a lot of different things for Ultima Lucha 3. We'll talk a little bit about the whole deal where Jeremiah Crane actually passed the gauntlet over to Katrina. Katrina, of course, who had a deal with the head officer, basically retrieving the gauntlet and giving it to her. And it turns out that the head officer is her mother. Jeez Louise, that was actually very insane, but still an awesome moment. So, basically, Mil Muertes attacked Jeremiah Crane for attempting to kiss, Katrina. Cage grabs Katrina by the throat, and Katrina can't disappear. So Cage says, oh, you're probably wondering why you can't do that. Well, the gauntlet's so powerful that you can't even possibly hope to understand, its power. And then Katrina just drops the gauntlet, disappears. It seems like Cage is about to get it, but then we see Jeremiah and Muertes, beating down on Cage. And then it turns into like a three-way brawl, and it ends with Dario Cueto grabbing the gauntlet and walking away. So there's probably going to be some kind of interesting matchup for that gauntlet. I think it's going to probably evolve into maybe a ladder match, possibly just a regular three-way matchup where these guys just kill each other. God help me, that would actually be pretty amazing because I would love to see Mil Muertes and Jeremiah Crane battle again. You add Cage into the mix and you have quite possibly a volatile situation. So, regarding AAA, they've actually stripped Sexy Star of her AAA Women's title, which is probably a really good move because with all the controversy and with all the different opinions and all the different stories regarding the Sexy Star Rosemary incident, it's one of the best things that they can do right now. Sexy Star was being very unprofessional. It's one of the consequences she has to live through. And of course, another one is the fact that a lot of people are not booking her. And she's, had she just, gone out and apologized to Rosemary for what she did, this could have probably been easily avoided. But nope, she just said, it was all a misunderstanding, or that Rosemary was a liar, and she's trying to be a role model for women. It's just one of those things where it's like, are you serious? Come on. It made absolutely no sense. It was horrible. So, we're going to close it off with the news about GFW. There has been at least two stories that I wanted to talk about. The one first being that Jeff Jarrett is no longer head of creative. He is actually sent on I want to say it's a temporary LOA because he has some personal issues that are going on. I don't know if it's going on with his family or maybe it's with his personal health or something like that. But Anthem, GFW basically said, you need to take time off. You need to focus, I think, on yourself or something like that. They never really gave specifics on what's going on. They just said, going through some personal issues and that he's going to be off for now. In addition to that, Anthem is possibly looking to sell GFW. It seems like there's a lot of rumors that are heavily speculating that Anthem is wanting to get out of the wrestling business, which means that GFW would lose one of their biggest sponsors for being able to do tapings, for them to do shows. Just, it would really be a fatal blow to GFW. And it's kind of a shame because right now GFW is trying to do like this WWE, almost like a WWE network type deal, where they have all the archives for TNA, for Impact Wrestling, where you can go back and check out some of these great matches. I'm looking forward to when that comes out. I'll probably be a loyal subscriber. It's going to just be interesting to see how things come about. Honestly, if Anthem is looking to get out, I would definitely get in contact with WWE, sell the rights to them, so that way we can actually, see a little bit more different stuff here, because then we can get the Broken Hardys in WWE. Maybe we can even get back to, R-Truth being that awesome heel that he was. I think it'd be really cool just to have all of that extra content to put on the WWE Network. And a lot of people would definitely be tuning into that because it's like, hey, it's a new wrestling promotion. Let's go see what's going on here. And as long as they tune into the later days, I think it was 2005, I want to say. Was it from 2004, 2005? That's the starting point for where things really started going up. Just kind of watching the episodes from there on out really would make things interesting. So, all right, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of The Game Changer. I've already made the announcement on our Facebook.com page, at facebook.com/changing up the game, that next week you can expect not one, but 2 interviews for The Game Changer, in which the beautiful Brenda is expected to be a part of this. Also, Matthias Glass, one of the top 500 wrestlers, Mark, I think it was top 500 wrestlers according to PWI, I want to say, or maybe it was Sports Illustrated. I'm trying to remember which exactly it was, but it's a great privilege and it's a great honor that this guy got at least up to the top 500, because he's very entertaining. He's good in the ring. He's definitely one of those guys you should definitely take a look at. Also, next week Friday will be the prediction episode between myself and Mr. Max Beatty, so definitely tune in to that. Other than that, you guys, thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of The Game Changer. I've already mentioned where you can find us on Facebook. Give us a like, as well as follow me on Twitter at Nate Effing Great. Real effing game, I should say. I'm still not used to that. And also check out Max Beatty on his Twitter at Agent Cooper 1989. Thank you guys so much for joining me here, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.